Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning, although it's at tea time. How's that work? I never know. I'm delighted to be joined today by Mark Arnstein, who is a realtor in Canada. So I'm incredibly grateful for you joining me today, and hopefully you're going to be sharing your wisdom and expertise about what's going on in the Canadian market, some tips that will help the UK with what's going on over here. So, Mark, how did you become a realtor? How did you get involved?
Oh, wow. So I was working in sporting goods and I had gone to university and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And a friend of mine was in the business and we were talking one day over lunch and he was like, you should totally do it. You'd be amazing at it. It'd be right up your alley. And my stepdad at the time was a very senior executive for a high profile drugstore chain. And so I very good business sense. So I went to him and asked him the same question. He was like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So went and got my license, and 27 years later, here we are.
Wow. Okay. So I'm sure you've got loads of lessons you can share in your 27 years. One of the things that's really interesting in the UK is you don't need to be licensed to be an estate agent over here. So tell us a bit about licensing there. How does that work, and what are the benefits for you, and more importantly, your customers?
Sure. Okay. So licensing so it varies in Canada. It will vary from province to province. Each province has like their own different requirements as far as their licensing standards go. So like in British Columbia, it is run through the University of British Columbia. It's part of their business program. Whereas in Ontario, it used to be run by the Ontario Real Estate Association, but now Humberview College has taken over the program and is now doing licensing. And it used to be, I think you could do it in 6 months. And now I think it's like a year and a half to get your license. So they try and give you as much background education as they possibly can, from legal to mortgages, different types of properties, contract law. So basically that you come out of it fairly ideally well educated. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. But that's the basis of it for the most part.
Okay, well, you can be a butcher here one day and an estate agent the next day. So
Scary.
It is scary. So whether licensing ever happens here, it hasn't happened in my time of 30 odd years in agency, and so we will wait and see.
Yeah, it's I'm a big proponent of it. I think it's super important because, again, typically you're dealing with people's usually their largest assets. So what they own, because real estate is one of those things that has a lot of wealth behind it. And it's ironic because if you want to become like a certified financial planner, so dealing with someone's investment portfolio, like the educational and licensing requirements are like massive. So why is it not the same with real estate? It doesn't make any sense to me.
100%, and you touched on there, it's all about being a trusted advisor, and that's something I can't understand. We're entrusted to sell people's biggest tax-free asset. We're entrusted to help landlords maximize their investment, and yeah, you don't need any qualifications. Anyway, that's a different story. So
another conversation for another time.
27 years.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the 3 biggest lessons you've learned in those 27 years?
Follow up. Okay,
so it's all about the follow up.
Yeah, and probably the other one is consistency. So one of the biggest mistakes I find agents make, especially when they're first getting started, is everybody wants that instantaneous success, right? So they want to try something because they see other people who are doing it, and then if they don't get the results right away from it, they'll break from it and try and go and do something else. Well, the person who had that success that you're trying to emulate obviously has been doing it for a longer period of time and has been doing it consistently. And that's why they're getting the benefits from what they're doing. Everything takes time, right? So you can't, there's nothing in this world that is just going to be that quick. And if it was that case, then everybody would be doing it, right? And that's one of the biggest things I try and teach the guys on my team is that, you got to take your path, be consistent at it 100%, and don't ever take your foot off the gas.
Okay, brilliant advice there. And is that what's helped you become one of the top spots in the Remax Hallmark reality?
You got it. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and the other thing also too is like, I would say is being a good listener. Listening to what the client wants to do, what their objectives are, rather than setting your own agenda. Listen to their agenda and then adapt your presentation, how you're dealing with that person, to work with what you want to do, but based on what they want to do, right? Because it's not about you, it's about them. They're the ones that have the asset. They're the ones that either want to buy or sell it. So you got to be willing to listen to what they have to say and start, instead of trying to drive your own agenda and have verbal diarrhea, basically.
I couldn't agree more. Well, we've got a couple of people watching, which is good going. So we've got Bergenells in Ireland. So great topic. Agents in Ireland must be individually licensed by the property services regulator, and this license must be renewed annually. The company they work for must also be licensed. This reassures all those looking to engage a property services provider that they're dealing with somebody who's reputable, knowledgeable, and experienced. Agree, 100%. And Luke Jones, thanks for watching. Follow up, 100% thumbs up.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And we come on to that in a bit. How then? Okay, so before you can follow up, you need the properties. The properties need to come from somewhere. So a couple of things. One, I love your Instagram. So livingnorthtoronto.tv. Great. Oh, look, it happens to be behind you as well. A lot of realtors will just have their name, Mark Arnstein. Why have you done that?
Because I work in, everyone describes it a little bit differently. We call it farming or working in a geographical neighborhood. Because I do a focus in one particular area from a farming perspective, which is called basically North Toronto. So we came up with the extra tag for it so that it talks about, it encompasses everything to do with the neighborhood. So whether it happens to be about real estate, activities, events, things that are just going on in general, talking about interviews with different business owners, about the parks, the schools. It's about living in North Toronto. That's so that you are perceived as a neighborhood expert because of this fact, right? So my clients, people in the area, they know I know my stuff inside and out. They know I know the neighborhood. They know I know all the ins and outs of what's going on. So that comes across, and that's super, super important.
Okay, well, couldn't agree more. Being that digital mayor is really, really important. Really, really important.
Yeah, look, it's a digital age. Everything has evolved. Everything has changed. I mean, I look back to when I started. I don't know how long, Stephen, you've been doing this, but when I started 27 years ago, I mean, in Canada, I don't know if you guys a pager is, but like,
we had telexes.
Yeah.
Now I'm showing my age.
So, like we had to carry like these big honking pagers, and then, everything kind of evolved. And like, that's the thing is like, people in this business get very stuck and very rudimented in their own ways, and they don't want to deviate from the old ways of doing things. And like, you got to remember there's a younger crowd coming up into the industry, because now in the last probably 15 years, you've seen a lot more younger generation coming into the business and getting involved in real estate. And now they're used to using all the new current technology. So if you're a little bit older and you haven't evolved and haven't adapted to all that stuff, then you're going to get left behind in the dust. I don't care what anybody says. You need to be firing on all cylinders at all times and incorporating all the tools in your arsenal to be a successful agent.
So on that note, ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
How are you finding it? Are you making use of it
yet? A little bit. I mean, so I'm involved in a networking community we have. It's called Masteries Advisory Council, and we meet once a month. Each person is responsible for doing a presentation. So we utilize the ChatGPT to kind of help with the presentation that I had to do, which was about brand marketing, just to kind of, just saved me the time of the writing, and then and my assistant helped me do it, put it all together. But then we tweaked it a little bit here, added our own words, and like, you got to be really careful with. It's a great tool to have to your advantage, but you got to make sure that it still sounds like you, right? People still want to know that it's Stephen Brown talking to me, not some computer talking to me, right? And that's super important.
Okay, I can assure you it is Stephen Brown talking to you.
Are you sure? You look a little digital to me. I'm not sure.
I am today. Okay, so Richard, thanks very much for watching. Mark is so right. The biggest single issue I find after 38 years as an agent is the lack of listening. Your biggest tool is the gift of a gap. Okay, so how do you practice listening skills then? How can people improve their listening skills?
Well, I think you got to go to either listen to podcasts like this, I think is always a great tool. When you're in your downtime, you should be listening to podcasts. You should try and go to real estate seminars. You think about today, right? There's so much information available to you in a blink of an eye on the internet and what you can get your hands onto. And, when you have, that little bit of downtime, take the time and listen to a podcast or watch a little video or, Joe Waldman is another great guy out of Arizona in the United States. He's in his 80s, but the man is an unbelievable machine. I mean, the way he can present and talk to people, it is absolutely just phenomenal. But again, just, learning how to tweak things, and I constantly learn things all the time, about using you when you respond to emails rather than using I all the time, right? Because it becomes more about them instead of about you, right? I just picked that up the other day. A couple of months ago. So you just got to be a sponge. You got to be able to listen and evolve at all times and, pick up on chats and videos. And, if you're in your office and there's, the broker does training seminars, those are things that you should be going to on a regular basis because they're only going to benefit you, not harm you. And then tweak it to your own style, right? And that's the other thing that's super important is, how I talk and how I come across is going to be very different than how you talk, Stephen, right? But you be you because that's who you are. But take what you can learn from someone's dialogue and then adapt it to your own style.
100%. And my favorite C word you mentioned earlier.
Consistency?
Yes, thank you. And one of the things I notice is that you do a couple of things monthly. So market stats and also a monthly newsletter. So in the UK at the moment, there's doom and gloom. The CNN constant negative news channel here is telling everybody prices are going to drop by 35%.
Right.
We're seeing mortgage rates, inflation today stayed at the same level, which was surprising. I think at 8.4%, people were expecting it to come down. It didn't, or 8.1%, apologies, somewhere at that level. It didn't come down. Interest rates are, by the looks of things, going to go up again for the 13th, 14th month in a row. We're most probably getting back to some normality. I can remember when my first mortgage interest rates were at 15% and I was about to fix for 10 years at 10%. So for us, I suppose, older generation, 5%, 6% actually is relatively cheap in comparison. How are you? One, is it similar in where you are? And two, how are you going back about educating your community with what is going on? Because for me, it's local. What we're hearing CNN is national. What's actually happening in the local market is making a massive difference. And that's what I love about your market reports. So can you tell us what goes in them as well?
Sure. So a couple of things again is obviously video is huge today, right? Video is a massive format. Now, again, I don't care if you're not good at it. I don't care if you're concerned about how you're going to look on video. This is going to be a long-winded response to your answer, by the way. I'm just going to set you up right now. But use video and use the content to be a voice to your clientele, to your audience, and let them know exactly what you, Stephen, what you said, which is that real estate is local. It's not necessarily global, right? For what you're doing. So yes, in Canada, for instance, there are certain areas of the country that are having problems with what we call inventory, where they have too much of a supply and not enough buyers to be able to, buy up what already exists. In Toronto, it's actually the opposite. We have a very massive lack of inventory. So we talk about months of inventory, which is a reflection on the actual market itself. So for instance, if, we say like right now, Toronto's operating in about a month and a bit worth of inventory. So which means if no new listings were come onto the market after 1 month, we'd have no new listings. That's a seller's market. So regardless what the media is saying, this is what's happening here in Toronto. We've done video content. We also, back to your consistency thing, I actually also do a weekly vlog, video vlog, just kind of talking about, whether it's, things going on in the neighborhood, just like about the media reports, mortgage updates, all those kinds of things too. So it's just a quick little 5-minute me yabbering about something that's going on, but it's content for people to see what's happening. But you got to be an educator, right? So you got to be able to dive deep into the notes and know what's going on and be able to report back to people. Because when people say to you, "Oh, what's happening with the market? Is it really all doom and gloom like the media says?" The response theoretically should be, that depends. Are you buying or are you selling? Because it depends, how it reflects what's going on. But here, yes, mortgage rates have been going up dramatically. We're like on a 5-year fix. We're still under the 5% mark for 5-year fixed money, so which is still pretty good, which is really basically a normal market. What happened through the pandemic, through 2020 to into 2022, was a rate scenario that we'll never probably ever see again in our lifetimes. Just because like that was a pandemic. Oh my God, what do we do? How do we make sure everything stays afloat? Let's just lower my money super cheap so everyone can afford to live, making sure everyone can survive. That's not normal. But people were able to take advantage of that from the real estate perspective because it became a phenomenal time to buy stuff because the cost to borrow was so cheap. So to get back to it, if you, in the media, and I talk about this all the time, is that, the media reports, like you said, globally. Let's look at it locally and see what's happening. And that's how you can differentiate yourself amongst everybody else. Because now you're talking about what's happening in your market as opposed to what's happening on a global scale, which is more important because really, honestly, if I'm in London, England, I don't care what's, no offense to people who are in Ireland or somebody who's in Madrid or somebody who's in Rome, because it's not relative to where I am. I'm more concerned about where I am right now. That's what's important to me.
100%. So 2 questions from that. One, you just said, just do it. Okay. So there's people that really feel uncomfortable hitting that record button.
Yeah.
What advice can you give to people to just actually start it
Right.
and get it done? And secondly, the consistency. So, you are very consistent in doing it weekly, monthly. I know you've got your own podcast as well.
Yeah.
Your own reward program that I'm interested in finding more out about. How does somebody get that consistency as well?
Calendar. You got to, it's scheduling. Scheduling is the number one key, right? Like, so, it's
what gets scheduled gets done. I just want to know, have you been on a Tom Ferry course or have you been training Tom Ferry? Because
no.
Are you buying or selling or I've
Listen,
heard it from Mr. Ferry.
Tom actually copied me. No, I'm not joking. So this is actually a quick funny story. So I was in Remax Europe. If anyone who's watching this, I have no idea. I was in Vienna for I think it was like their 3rd annual real estate conference for Remax. And so I was brought in to speak about farming and marketing, that kind of stuff. And Tom was there, and Tom actually stole my newsletter and then used it to teach to his students.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good.
So not that he asked me for permission, but I mean, like, he just, but anyways.
Can I ask you for permission? Yeah. Would you be kind enough to share it and then we can R&D it?
No problem. Happy to share. Just got to ask. You just got to ask, right? Giving starts the receiving process, right? You give and you receive back tenfold. So, but
100%.
Yeah.
So just about starting,
with video. Yeah. So with video, it's just, it's trial and error. I mean, the thing is, people like, here's what people have to understand. If I record a video and I put it out there and then someone wants to come and see me, guess what? How they saw you in the video was how you look in real life. So like, what does it matter? It doesn't, right? It's just about getting people to see you and understand who you are and what you're all about and that you have a personality. And that's what's super important. Yeah, you're going to get, stumble a little bit here and, fluff on your words. So stop and re-record. It's not a big deal. It happens. But don't keep it long-winded. Keep it super short. Make it so when you're first getting started so that you make it easier for yourself. And then, it's like working out, right? You don't go and try and become an Olympic bodybuilder and the first day you go to the gym. You start off slow and you work your way up to a progression, right? It's the same thing. Like you just start off kind of slow and work your way into it. But it's 2023. You got to do it. Like it's like, and if you don't, you're gonna get left in the dust, like I said earlier. So, but you just got to create and just go with it.
Okay, and as you said before, there's so many ideas out there that you can use. So you gave them before. What you're doing on a weekly basis, what events are going on in your area. What's going on in the market, speaking to local businesses, all the things you said earlier. Actually local businesses need help now. So why wouldn't you go and help them by doing a video and getting people to come into their businesses and help them as well? Because as you said there, people are going to, you're giving to their business, you're adding value, and they're going to remember that.
No, for sure. And here's the other part is you give them back the content that you created for them so they can repost it onto their social. And now guess what happens? Other people see it through their social and now see, oh, who's that realtor that was really cool. That realtor went. So again, now you gotten like double the amount of viewership that you never would have had from before if you hadn't done it, because now you got the viewership on your own channel plus on theirs as well. So, and then the other key to it too is just like, if whatever your outside interests are outside of real estate, incorporate that into your daily routine as well, because people want to see that you're a human being, that you have a life, that your life does not revolve around real estate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you know what? It's boring. So other than get to see a super sexy home once in a while, they want to see that you're into doing other stuff because that you have a life and that you're a human being. And that's really, really, really important.
Brilliant. Thank you. So you touched on earlier lack of inventory. So what are agents doing to find these properties? So I noticed your disruptive question, so when somebody asks you how's the property market, you say, are you asking because you're thinking of selling, you're thinking of buying, you're thinking of renting one out, or you're a landlord? And then obviously you can go from there. Any other things that you can help that will help the audience or people listening or watching?
So one of the big things we talk about is what's called your lifetime referral system. So that's the deal that you have on your database. So if you're working your database properly, it should, no matter what's going on, should generate about a 20% return based on the amount of people that you have in that database. So for instance, if you have 100 people, you should be able to get 20 people out of the 100 to be able to refer you at least one transaction over the course of the year, if you're working it properly. You can't just wait and sit back for it to happen. You actually have to work it. So, which is a whole other quick, long-winded discussion. Not quick, long-winded, sorry. But basically you need a number of touches over the course of a year that you have to calendarize again, right? Put into your calendar that you need to reach out to these people, whether it's by a text message, a phone call, an email, a quick video, whether you're doing an event, just a quick update on the market. Just by the way, wanted to let you know a house just sold down the street from you at 123 Main Street. Got a great price. Hope you're doing well, whatever it's going to be, but you have to be able to touch base with them a certain period amount of time over the course of the year in order to get that business from them. That's number one. Number two is go back to all the leads that you've come across over the time that you maybe have dropped by the wayside or you just haven't even touched base with. Go back and see what's going on, because like I tell my guys, until they tell you to jump in the lake, they're a live lead, right? So until they say no, keep following up. And again, it goes back to follow up, right? The other thing is, become that go-to person with a source of information, that you are a knowledgeable person, that people can come to you and they can ask you questions to know what's going on, right? Because in any market, no matter what's going on, there's people that always want to do something, right? That have to do something. Whether somebody's getting divorced, whether someone unfortunately has passed away, whether somebody needs to downsize, that somebody needs to upsize because they're just bursting at the seams and they have to get out of their house. There's always going to be an opportunity somewhere. You just got to have to go out there and go and find it. And if you're working in a specific neighborhood, then, it's summertime, the weather's beautiful outside, go out and knock doors, right? But go with information. like, don't just go knock on the door and say, hi, do you want to sell your house? It's like, it's going in and saying, hi, Stephen. I don't know if we met before. My name is Mark Arnstein. I'm with Remax Hallmark. I work in your neighborhood. I just want to come by and introduce myself and say hello. And if there's ever anything you need, please please feel free to reach out to me anytime you need anything. I'm always here to help you any which way I can. Thank you. Goodbye. See you. Off you go. If they're want to engage with you, they're going to have a conversation regardless. Number two, or you can do it if you know someone in your office or you or anybody else that's just listed or sold something that's nearby. Again, you can come and knock on the door with that relative information, because now you're coming with something of value, right? So if you come and say, oh, I have a buyer who's looking to buy in your neighborhood, would you consider selling? Well, I don't know, maybe. Oh, yeah, sorry, I don't have that buyer. Really, they kind of went off in a different direction, but do you still want to sell? No, people read through that crap. It's like the oldest trick in the book, right? Go with value. Show your worth. Show what you're capable of doing, right?
100%. Thank you. I would say in the UK, 95% of estate agents have no stay in touch policy. It's quite scary. So people buy through an agent and then they go into witness protection because they never get called. So, you've given this lifetime referral system is something that would definitely help people for watching. So thank you. I talk a lot about, how can you obtain that client for life, where they then recommend you to friends, family, colleagues, or neighbors to help grow your business. Referrals makes your business grow.
Yeah.
You've got to give that exceptional experience in order to do that. Fees. So I hope you are sitting down.
Oh, yes, okay. I am.
The average UK fee is 1%. Okay. There are some exceptional agents out here that may get 2%. Okay. I know obviously you get a higher fee where you are. And I don't know if you like the American market where you get 3% for selling and 3% for buying. Maybe you get higher.
Well, okay. No. So here it's typically usually 5% commission and then split 50-50. So 2.5.
Okay. How do you get your fee? How do you demonstrate the investment in your services is worth what you get, rather than seeing the agents here that it's a race to the bottom? Oh no, 1% is too much. Let's charge 0.5%. Let's do double the amount of work. So what tips on fees can you give, please?
Show your value, show your worth. Like, don't tell, show. Don't tell, show. Let me repeat that one more time. Do not tell them, show them. Okay, so what does that mean? It means if I just tell you I'm a great agent, I do all this marketing, blah, 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 where's the evidence to back it up? Right? So if I come in and I show you, so one of the things, let's see if I got one sitting here. I don't. Okay, so one, you should have a pre-listing package before you go into a presentation. So take the time, go by the property, take an updated picture. Don't rely on Google, because you don't know if the person has painted the house, changed the color of the fence, did the gardening. What happens if it's middle of summer and the picture is from winter, right? So it just shows that you've taken the time to go and be thoughtful about going to meet with that client, and you've taken some extra steps above and beyond what everybody else has probably done, right? That's number one. Number two, then drop off an information package about who you are, what you do, your services, links to your Instagram, links to your website, where you can see all kinds of things, YouTube channels, whatever it's going to be. So then when you walk in the door, they're already educated from who you are and what you're all about. So when you sit down with them and you start showing them what you're capable of doing, you're going to be that much further ahead of everybody else. Then you better have a damn well good marketing program that shows that you should be getting more than, God forbid, 0.5% or 1% commission. So that you are going to create a social media campaign for this person. You're going to give them a dedicated website for their listing. You're going to give them a mail drop also for their listing as well. And here's all the proof that shows here's all the things I do. Not only that, but I'll put it in writing and I'll sign off on it. And if you can challenge me at any point, if you don't think I'm doing what I said I was going to do, hey, fire me. That's how you get better commission.
Okay.
Back it up and show them. Don't tell them.
Okay. So one of the things that I think agency is relatively simple. It's about mastering 4 disciplines: so prospecting, listing, selling, and negotiating.
Yeah.
One of the things here is that agents struggle with, not exceptional agents, is negotiating. So you got any tips on negotiating skills to get the best outcome for our sellers?
Yeah. Always be prepared to walk away. Number one rule, right? If you don't care at the end of the day about the outcome, where you can just get up and walk away and say, you know what, you hold the power. The other part of that too, because people some say, well, don't ever let the deal die. Like always keep things going. It's it's one of those two things, and again, it'll be really predicated on the situation that you're in, right? So it depends on whether you're on the buying side or whether you're on the listing side, right? So different tactics for different situations. So whether you're, which side you're representing, but it's one of those two are usually the main options that we usually go with, right? Is that don't let the deal die if you're on the buying side, and if you're on the selling side, be prepared to walk away because everybody wants what they can't have.
Thank you. So MA
and don't split the difference.
Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, good
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
MA Rewards.
Yeah.
So what's all that about, please?
So MA Rewards is a referral program so that we came up with. Now, again, it's a tricky one to do because we can't promote it from a marketing standpoint, like out into the general public, because you can't entice people to give you a referral as part of the rules here in Ontario. But to our database and people that we know, we can go ahead and we can do it directly because there's no risk of getting into any issues. But basically, it's like if you give one referral, you get your first reward, which is like a gift certificate to a really nice restaurant. You can choose from one of 3 different restaurants. The next one gives you a gift certificate to a hotel voucher. So usually it's a fairly high-end hotel, so you can use for travel. And then the third one gets you. I work with a local artist, again supporting local businesses. So because I deal in a relatively higher end price range, like most of my stuff is, I don't know what the conversion is, but let's say like $2 million Canadian into pounds. We're dealing with relatively large commissions. So if you want to do the math quickly on a $2 million sale is about a $50,000 commission. And usually there's a buy and a sell combined into that. So we would do like a customized painting for that person as a housewarming gift, because now you create a conversation piece for them, right? So, and then so they would get so the third reward would be a painting by Michael, our local artist. And then the fifth one is we give them a $5,000 travel voucher that they can use to go anywhere they want.
Wow, that's amazing.
So if you think about it, if someone's sent you 5 referrals, right? If you do the math quickly based on price points, you're talking like less than probably 0.5%, and what it's going to cost you overall in to give them that reward, right? So, and then what we do is we have little customized membership cards, so that we send them in a box, to give them to their office rather than to their house, right? Which was easier before the pandemic because had more bang there because everyone was around, so everyone could see what was going on. But basically, so it puts them into there was bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Right, so platinum was obviously your 5th referral. Golds are working your way down from there.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So final question, because I'm really conscious and really grateful that you've given up your time, your lunchtime. So thank you where you are.
No, it's not even lunchtime. It's morning. Like it's 11 o'clock here.
Thank you. So you talk about being a sponge.
Yeah.
Okay. And every day being a learning day. So what do you recommend for our audience to be watching, listening? Who are the best people in property, out of property that you follow, and why?
Okay, so Richard Robbins, who is local here in Canada. So he's Canadian, which is probably has somewhat similarities for people in Europe, because just especially in the UK, because like Canada and UK are very similar in the way way things work. Richard is phenomenal. And one of the things I love about Richard is that he's been at it for a very long time, but has his people in his group have grown and evolved. Everyone takes ideas and then runs with them and then re-evolves them and makes them even bigger and better. So then he would then repurposes that content and then brings it back out to everybody so people can hear it and can see it. Because now you have actual real results from the agents actually taking these ideas and then working with them and running with them. So which is really, I think is really cool. He has a podcast as well, the Richard Robbins Show, which I would highly recommend to anyone to listen and watch. So he's one. There's another, Ryan Serhant from out of New York. I think I'm actually part of their group. I'm a brand ambassador for them. So I run a Serhant thing, that mentorship that I do once every 2 weeks here through Zoom. So I think Ryan is like massive. I love what he does from a brand perspective. So you look at obviously what's behind me. Branding yourself in today's world is super important. I think you are missing the boat if you don't do that. Brand marketing is your chance to make that really super great first impression and to get a way to differentiate yourself amongst the competition. Like, so for instance, in Toronto, we have what's called the Toronto Real Estate Board. Like, we have a board that runs our MLS system. I know you guys don't have one, but there are 75,000 agents licensed on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Okay. Last year in 2022, there were 63,000 transactions done through the MLS system. Okay. So that's negative transactions per agent, right? So obviously, how, you got to differentiate yourself amongst that competition to get people to understand who you are and what you're all about. So example, I was on a listing presentation last week, and they thought I was my own brokerage. They didn't even know I worked for Remax. They just assumed I was my own thing because they watched all of my marketing and my brand and what I do, my community presence, and my knowledge of the area. All that stuff is so important today, and you have to be knowledgeable on that 100%. So those are two main guys that will give you both amazing strategies from both a brand strategy and from a system strategy that can really elevate and skyrocket your business.
Brilliant. Look, I'm really grateful for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
How do people find you and get hold of you if they want to get in contact, please?
Yeah, for sure. It's on social. It's really easy. It's all at Mark Arnstein. So the @ symbol, Mark Arnstein. And then also my livingnorthtoronto.tv is our other Instagram, livingnorthtoronto.com. That goes to our main site as well for our website. But yeah, our email is simple. It's mark@markarnstein.com, right? Because you're your brand, right? It's important because there's a point where, when you're starting, the brand of the brokerage you're with helps you get in the door. But eventually it should switch where the brokerage becomes secondary and you become primary. So.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And I hope you all have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are watching and listening to this. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.